The Renault Captur is one of those SUVs we just don't see enough of on our roads, and that is a shame. But Renault for its part has been doing quite a bit to generate interest in the model, and the introduction of this shade of radiant red is one of those measures. But we're not here to talk about the color. This is the first time we've got our hands on the petrol version of the Captur, and the engine is going to be the focus of this review. Before we dive into the finer bits, you should know the Captur Petrol is identical to the diesel in look, though the top spec Platin trim has been given a miss on the petrol. In design, the Captur looks chic, but the shape isn't to all tastes. And while the cabin has its interesting elements, the scratchy plastics drag things down. Space and comfort are fine, but not class leading. Over to the engine. The engine in question is Renault's 1.5-litre H4K petrol unit, which is also the one that powers the Duster Petrol. It's a naturally aspirated engine with middle-of-the-road power and torque figures, and the numbers reflect in the way the Captur Petrol drives. With just 106 horsepower and 142 Newton meters of torque, the Captur was expectedly not going to be sprightly, and it isn't. But if your usage is largely in town and you're going to be stuck in traffic, you won't really find any real deficit in performance. Ask any more of the engine and it feels underwhelming. It's when you want to overtake that you'd wish this engine had more to give, especially if you're familiar with the diesel Captur. Now remember, that is a turbocharged engine, and there's that little bit of a spike that you get in the mid-range which really makes a world of a difference. To be fair, the more powerful Hyundai Creta Petrol is no faster through the gears. What the Captur Petrol is really missing is a good automatic transmission. Unlike the diesel Captur that gets a 6-speed manual gearbox, the petrol one is available with a 5-speed manual unit. The shifts are reasonably nice, the clutch also doesn't require all that much effort. But what is an irritant, which is something that we reported in the diesel Captur as well, is that there's absolutely no space in the footwell to rest your left leg. Really, if you think about it, this is a car that's crying out for a good automatic transmission. A CVT with this engine, according to me, would make for a great city SUV. What you do get in the Captur Petrol is a reasonably quiet experience. From the Captur diesel, we already know that the Renault is quite good on refinement, talking wind noise and road noise. With the petrol engine, the engine noise levels also go down a notch. It's a fairly quiet and refined engine, and only really gets a bit buzzy when you extend it really hard. Engine and gearbox aside, the Captur Petrol is identical to the diesel one in its mechanical package, and that is a good thing. One thing that we said about the diesel Captur is that this is an SUV that comes into its own at high speeds, and that holds true here as well. High-speed stability is really good, the sense of confidence that you get is really high, and just the general demeanor is of a very nice and planted car. But the question is, if you're going to be covering long distances, is the petrol Captur the one to go for? Just consider. The diesel one has an official claimed mileage of 20.4 kilometers to a litre. The petrol one just under 14. So you'll have to do the math. Let's talk prices. The high-spec RXT variant of the Captur Petrol costs 11.46 lakh rupees ex-showroom, which makes it a full 1.21 lakh rupees cheaper than the corresponding diesel variant. Note, a comparably spec'd Creta Petrol costs 1 lakh rupees more than the Captur, although you do get more power, space and features in the Hyundai. So is the Captur Petrol the SUV for you? If your usage primarily consists of urban commutes with the occasional out-of-town journey, the Captur Petrol does make for a fair choice. The refinement, ride quality and tough build are the talking points, and performance is adequate for the urban grind. But what would make the Captur Petrol far easier to recommend would be the option of a CVT automatic gearbox. I hope the good folk at Renault are listening.